and you thought it was over. Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and you're watching The Broken Meeple. This is a YouTube channel about board games where I give reviews, top 10s and my honest opinions, regardless of the consequences.
Get on with it.
So, Spirit Island, one of my favourite games of all time. It's been my number one in my top 100 before, it's been in my top 10 multiple times. This is just, I love this game. And this is one of those heavy games that knows how to not bombard me with a ton of rules, but still give me a decent amount of depth and strategy and complexity and all that with one of the best incorporated themes I've seen for a game of this complexity. Every spirit that you have in this game works so well with the theme it's supposed to represent.
Oh, it sounds dreamy.
So you figure I've got two boxes, I've got Branching Claw, the promos, Jagged Earth. They can't do much more with this system, can they? Oh boy, yes they can. And I've been spamming this like crazy recently in order to get all the spirits played, just so that I could have a reasonable idea as to how they work. Not up against higher difficulties, I can't play this game at higher difficulties very easily without multiplayer support because I play true solo really, but I still wanted to at least give them a try against some adversaries and just see how the spirits worked. Now Nature Incarnate is basically a more of the good stuff deal. There isn't really anything brand new from a mechanical perspective, apart from some tweaks with some of the spirits. It's more that if you like what's in Spirit Island already, then here's more spirits. Did you think that we were going to forget about the old spirits? Then here's some ways to change them. It's essentially more of the good stuff, but is that stuff warranted? Now something to stress is that yes, you can kind of fit everything into the two boxes, even with all the expansion stuff, if with the Horizon of Spirits that you got, the Horizon of Spirit Island or whatever, if you got these spirits. If you've got the wooden version of these, like the big cardboard thick versions of these, you're not going to be able to get this into two boxes with the folded space insert like I've got. But thankfully, I'm not that fussed if my spirit like panels are, you know, cardboard or what. I'm just happy enough that they fit in the box, more likely.
Compensating.
So yeah, we got a lot of spirits here, ranging from moderate to high difficulty, and I will stress that this expansion is probably best bought as your last expansion. I think Branching Claw, Jagged Earth and Nature Incarnate is still the order you should go in because it introduces you into the more complex spirits at a better rate. Jumping straight into Nature Incarnate from the base game, I would not recommend it with some of these spirits, even though there are some funky ones in here. So I've graded them briefly. Towering Roots of the Jungle, essentially a big defensive spirit, and it's one of the spirits that uses this new Incarnate token, which is this cool concept of having to move your token around the board. It counts as presence, but it also has extra rules depending where it is by your spirit, and it just kind of gives you almost a bit like a presence on the battlefield. You know, normally your spirit's just everywhere and you're just doing stuff where the discs are, but to actually have a little piece that you move around that kind of feels like there's where your actual spirit is just cool, and it's just something a little bit different. But Towering Roots of the Jungle is essentially a big defensive spirit, so if you like defense, this one's definitely pretty good at it, and it likes to draw invaders into where its roots are because it could basically just say, look, we're not fighting here, look, we're not doing anything, you're not ravaging, you're not damaging anything, you know, just come to where my roots are. Now, it does struggle a little bit at getting rid of said invaders, so it's probably best played paired, I reckon, rather than true solo, but it's almost kind of got that vibe of the one that lure into the unknown, the one that draws people inland or something. This one's kind of a similar deal, except this one is more trying to draw it to where its Incarnate is, which could be pretty much anywhere, really. It's a decent enough spirit, although it is a little weird to get your head around at first. Now, shall we go on to my favourite one? No, well, we'll get on to the second favourite of the moderates, and that is the Ember-Eyed Behemoth. This is basically a giant mountain turtle that stomps around the battlefield and crushes things. So this is essentially your high offense type spirit. You know, it just goes around, stamps on spaces, does damage, not like as much damage as maybe some spirits can, but it's continuous and relentless in how it does it, and you can essentially direct it around the place. Your Incarnate can move around the board, effectively stomping on the various places, and you only have one power, and it's called Smash, Stomp, and Flattens. But it kind of gives you an idea as to what this spirit is doing. But it's just a cool, easy spirit to do. I mean, this is probably, I would say, the easiest spirit to give someone out of this box if you really must play the new spirits, but somebody's not that familiar with Spirit Island. This is probably the one I would give them as a relatively straightforward one. It's definitely, I think, the easiest out of the three moderates to kind of get your head around and work on. But it's by no means less fun. It's cool to stomp around like this giant mountain turtle. I'll go for it. But here is, oh my god, I swear, I've had a bit of shtick in my past for not liking Thunder Speaker.
Kill him.
I get that Thunder Speaker can be powerful, but I can't get her to work well with me unless you get specific cards. This is the spirit that basically kills Thunder Speaker. I'm sorry, Thunder Speaker is a pawn, a piffly little pawn in comparison to this. The Hearth Vigil, which is this cute doggy. It's a dog. You get a doggy spirit with flying weird fairy eyeballs around it. It's kind of weird. But the idea is that this is basically the Dahan spirit. Like, if you want to play Dahan, you want to use Dahan to their most advantageous self, you play this one because you start with extra Dahan. They have +4 health. They are basically indomitable killing machines with this on the board. Now, the dog itself doesn't necessarily have a lot of offensive capability, particularly, unless you use it in conjunction with the Dahan, and there's not a huge amount of control aspect to this. But, man, I mean, it can basically it basically has this cool innate ability where it allows you to make Dahan attack before the invaders do in Ravage. That is insane. You can basically set up situations where the Ravagers would normally completely own the land in the Dahan, but because you've got Dahan there and you trigger this power, the Dahan kill all the towns and cities off before they get a chance to fight back. It's insane, but it's also very satisfying. You've got lots of ways to move the Dahan around. I mean, hell, you actually start off with gather 1 Dahan as an always operative bonus that you have. Gather 1 into your lands. It's such a cool, powerful spirit. You know, I don't do well with certain spirits with the Thunder Speaker, but man, I can rip everything apart with this one. I swear this is going to be one of the more powerful spirits out of this set, but it is just so satisfying to play and play the cards and basically just have the Dahan be tanks that roll around the battlefield and do your bidding. This is such a cool spirit. Probably my favorite. Is it my favorite out of this whole box? Could be. It's definitely up there. Right, let's go on to high, because as soon as we get from moderate, we basically go straight to high with the Breath of Darkness down your spine. Now, this is one that I should like more than I actually did when I played it. However, I am going to stipulate that this one is probably one of the weirder high complexity spirits to get your head round. With one exception as I look at that. But, this one is basically an Incarnate that moves around, but basically it sucks in invaders and deposits them into this void. And the more stuff you have in this void, the more fear you can generate with one of its innate powers, and your Incarnate can basically do a little bit of damage, push stuff, but eventually if you do what's called empower your Incarnate, which happens with all the Incarnates, they can all be empowered in some way, its special ability is that it can just randomly hoover up invaders. Which is cool. The idea that you basically have this darkness spirit that goes around and sucks up invaders into a void is awesome.
We have such sights to show you.
And it's definitely a high control and fear type spirit, which is always good. Doesn't have a lot of defense or offense though, so playing it solo was a little bit tricky for me. And your growth abilities release pieces from the void, but those pieces can also be things like, I've been told, they can be things like beasts in that. So I might have played it slightly wrong when I first played it, but the idea is that you're trying to essentially have beasts in your void that you can release rather than the invaders themselves. You want to keep the invaders there and they'll downgrade over time and they'll generate fear. But it's a fun spirit to play, don't get me wrong, but this one's going to take a couple of plays to get used to. I have not unlocked the potential of the spirit, but if you go online, this is a very popular one with people, and so I think I just need a little bit more practice with it. Maybe a lot of people go down the bottom line for card plays. I went along the top to try and empower my Incarnate off the bat. Not sure that was the best idea, but this is a cool idea, just this darkness fear spirit. I mean, I'm certainly going to try and play it more because in Spirit Island, the fear spirits are always my favorite. I love the spirits that cause fear and just rush for the terror level 3 victory. That's the way I play. I suck at playing this game with trying to kill everybody off the board. I'm so much better at doing the fear side of things. Alright, on that note, with the fear side of things, this is the one that I found to be a bit more reliable with fear, even though it technically doesn't have as much as breath. And that is the Wandering Voice Keen's Delirium, which is a weird name for a spirit. But think of it as just basically this wailing banshee. Imagine that going around. It essentially has an Incarnate that goes around, and when empowered it isolates the land, which is one of the more annoying rules to try and get your head around in this game, but it does it. But the idea is when this Incarnate moves around, it adds strife to various pieces. And strife is one of the best ways to stop ravages, because basically the piece just doesn't do anything, and yet the Dahan can still kill it afterwards, which is always good. So this thing just moves around, popping strife all over the place. But on top of that, you're also basically, based on your innate abilities, generating fear as well, and doing damage to the people who have strife. So with your abilities, you're kind of stopping the ravages, which is why, despite the fact that it has a low defense score, I find its defense is not bad. I mean, the amount of strife pieces you can put down make a big difference, certainly in solo mode. Perhaps it's not particularly effective in 2-player or multiplayer, but certainly in solo I found the defense was fine. But you do have a decent amount of control with being able to push things out of regions, a bit like the water stream one from the base set. I forget what it's called, River Surges, I believe. But this one can just generate consistent drip-feeding fear. This one just fear, 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 fear. Not necessarily tons of fear at once, like some of the other ones can, but this one is just constantly drip-feeding it. And again, this is a spirit that I had a lot of fun with, did particularly well with it, and just had good fun playing another fear-type spirit. I mean, it is the second highest stat, but it's fear with control as opposed to others which are fear and offense or fear and defense. So yeah, another one of my favorites from this set, I believe. This one though, I don't get. I just don't get how you're supposed to play this one, and probably the next one after this as well. Relentless Gaze of the Sun. This is basically a giant. I mean, the best way to describe it, you look at that. I don't know if you can see it well on the camera, but I'll try and get a picture if it doesn't show well. And essentially, it's just this like teeth-gnashing sun that just bears down on somebody. I cannot stop laughing when I play the spirit though, or see it in action, because the first image that comes to mind is the angry sun from the Super Mario 3. You know, the one that chases you around the level, especially if you've seen dorkly bits where it's got Tourette syndrome, effectively.
Mario! Mario, I'm coming for you! I'm gonna run in front of you!
This is a weird one, because you can get a lot of energy as the spirit. So you think, okay, I'm going to go along the top and I can have major powers all the time. But the idea with the spirit is that if you have 3 presents in the same location, you can basically repeat power card effects by spending more energy. So you get the energy, but you're not really spamming major powers, you're spamming small card plays. But the cards that you start with aren't particularly great. They kind of rely on you spamming them, and it's not something you can do on a regular basis. But I just struggled trying to play this one. I don't know if, I think I won it, but this was playing on a low difficulty. Like, I tend to play this game on like difficulty 3 to 4, maybe 5 if I want a bit of a challenge. I don't tend to go above that with true solo, because it just sometimes becomes not fun at that point. But this one I just found a weird one to play. It's definitely going to take a lot to get used to. And this is supposed to be super offense, like crazy damage. I was not doing a lot of damage as this one. It's kind of odd. I mean, not until I got really good major powers that worked with this spirit. But without those major powers, I'd have struggled. And it's supposed to be a decent amount of fear, small defense, good utility, uses Badland tokens, but it's got very little control. So maybe that was the idea, the fact that I just couldn't really control the battlefield. It's an odd one, this, and I can see some people liking it, but I don't know, I didn't have a lot of fun with this one. The idea of just spamming a power card is not... I feel like the bird one, whatever it is, the little... I forget what it is, I forget what type of bird it is, but the bird one, the one that the raindrops or something, the one that spams little cards as well, little effects. I feel like that one does it better than this one, but I don't know, I could be wrong. I am not a Spirit Island veteran. I'm sure people could school me nicely on the power of the spirit, but yeah, you're gonna have to take me to class, I think, with this one. Alright, and then another one that I struggled to do well with, which I'm sure is my inept ability rather than the power of the spirit, is Wounded Warders Bleeding. The thematic concept of the spirit is fantastic, but I really didn't do well with this spirit. The idea is that you start off injured. You're an injured, bleeding, wave of ocean or whatever. It's kind of sickening when you think about it. But the idea is that you have these healing cards that you can pick up, which basically, like, amend or give you extra innate powers, but you're also claiming markers based on how much water or like claw elements you pick up, which dictate which of those healing cards you're going to pick up. But as you go through, you're essentially choosing how you want to build this spirit as you go along from, say, 2 or 3 kind of routes you can go. It's not quite as unstructured as, say, the Starlight one from the Jagged Earth one, which basically is build your own spirit. But this one is just this cool idea that you start off injured, you're losing a card and a presence every turn, but you're getting a card and a presence every turn, so you're kind of making up for it. And then eventually you build up and get back out there in a guise that you've chosen. Now, I tried to play this doing the claw one, like going down the claw route, and I just found I didn't really do a lot. I didn't feel very powerful, despite the fact that this thing is meant to have a lot of offense and control, even though this can change based on your powers. I found that the cards that you get from taking more water elements to be a lot better than the claw ones, but again, maybe I was just playing it wrong, I don't know, but I did struggle with this one. But I do want to play it some more because this one was just so intriguing as a theme concept that it deserved more plays and at least a chance to try it more. Now, oh boy, the one that is very high, because all of them are high except for this one. This one is very high. Dances up earthquakes. And yeah, you can imagine how this is going. Yep, tectonic markers that you put all over the place. You start with 6 cards, not 4. You've got, quake tokens, whatever they call about. And this is all about tempo and timing. You know, it's got a lot of offense, a lot of utility, and kind of mixes with the rest. So what's so, complicated about this one? The concept of impending cards. This one basically has you, every time you play a power card, you can instead pay energy. I'm sort of reading it from the rules because it's easier to explain, but you can pay a certain amount of energy to make it impending, which means you set it out of play for a future turn. And then later on, it can basically, when you gain energy from your tracks, you're also gaining energy on the power cards, and as soon as they've got energy equal to their cost, they go off then. So you're prepping stuff in advance to use on later turns. It's a powerful ability, and certainly this is a powerful spirit, but oh my word, do you need to be good at this game to pilot it well. It's not one that you can just autopilot. You need to be good at the timing and the tempo of your impending cards along with everything else you do, and trust me, it is not easy to do that. You need to really practice with this spirit. It's got to be one of the hardest ones I've ever used, but not necessarily the most complex one I've ever used. I mean, this one it's hard to do well with because you've got to be good at the tempo and the timing, and I haven't got that down yet. But the rules for this one are not the most hardest thing in the world. I mean, you're basically just building up energy on cards you've set aside, and the quake tokens you put on the board, and you just do damage based on where they are. So that's not that complicated, and it's just a case that you've got to plan stuff. That's the hard bit. Easily, something like Shattered the Skies, or whatever it's called, Fractured Sky, that is easily way more complicated than this one is. Fractured Sky blows my mind just looking at the rules for that thing. This one's definitely easier to pick up, and certainly I think more enjoyable than Fractured Skies, but whew, yeah, you want to test your abilities at this game, certainly grab yourself Dances with Earthquakes. Dances up Earthquakes, sorry. So yeah, they're the spirits, and only on top of that, I mean, the rest of the stuff you get in this expansion is basically a few more powers, few more islands, few more fear cards, but you also get a bucket load of aspect change cards. You remember those cool things from Jagged Earth that change up the other spirits? You get them here now, and it's brilliant. You've got so many here, it's insane. So, Shifting Memory of Ages, Lure of the Deep Ones, Strength of the Earth, Shadows Flicker Like Flame, a couple of Ocean's Hungry Grasp, a couple for Sharp Fangs, a couple for Bringer and Nightmares, Free for River, Keeper of the Forbidden Wilds, Thunder Speaker, Rampant Green. Some of them add more cards, some of them just change up your innate powers. I love these. I love the ability to play different versions of old spirits. I mean, people give Shadow Flicker with Flame a hard time. Play it with the Pandemonium card from the Jagged Earth expansion and tell me he sucks dead. Ooh, boy, do I have a lot of fun with Pandemonium as his new aspect power. But it's going to take me forever to play through these. I haven't even tried any of them yet. I haven't had the time. I've been trying to play through every spirit, and now I've got to go through and try all the older spirits with all these changes. This expansion adds so much extra variety, it's insane in a box that big. So overall, this is basically an auto buy if you are a Spirit Island mega fan. If you love this game, grab Nature Incarnate. But I will stress that this is one you must buy last. These are going to mean nothing to you unless you have the spirits in play already. Some of these spirits require tokens from the Branch and Claw and Jagged Earth sets, so you're going to need to have them available And the complexity of some of these spirits is above what you get in the previous expansions. So I do not recommend this as a first expansion or even really a second expansion. Branch and Claw, Jagged Earth, and then Nature Incarnate. And get the 2 promos whenever you want, Feather and Flame or whatever they're called. I stand by that order. I know some people like to skip ahead to Jagged Earth and not do Branch and Claw, get that one later. I still think Branch, Jagged, this one. But do not get this one first. You're going to waste most of this content and you're going to be bamboozled by some of those spirits. And even the rulebook says that it wants you to have both Jagged Earth and Branch and Claw before you jump into this. So, at least I think it does. Does it say Branch and Claw? This requires both the base game and the Jagged Earth expansion. Okay, so you don't desperately need Branch and Claw with this, but let's face it, if you've got Jagged Earth, you've got Branch and Claw. It's a small enough expansion, unless it's out of stock. It was a hard one to get hold of at first. And what else do you get? Well, you get, let's see. Oh yeah, you get like a new adversary and a couple new scenarios. Just little bits of stuff. But honestly, I really like this expansion. It's great. It really does add some really good fun spirits and all this aspects and stuff. Yeah, I gotta give it a full 10 out of 10. I love it. I mean, this is an expansion that I want for a game. Just give me more of the good stuff and don't overcomplicate things. And even the very high complexity spirits in here feel easier to pilot or understand how they work than some of the very high ones from previous sets. So, they make hard to play spirits, but they don't jump the shark with regards to their complexity levels. Like I say, Fractured Shatters the Sky is one I probably won't ever play unless it's multiplayer, and even then I'll be blowing my mind. So honestly, yeah, if you love Spirit Island, grab this. That's basically the way to put it. So that's it for me on this episode of the Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube and check it out on the BGG page when it goes live. Thumb it up there too. Obviously, check out more content on the channel, including all the other videos I've done for Spirit Island in the past, including the main review. And I think I did a tier list as well of spirits and things like that. So, by all means, check it out. I think I might have even done something with a couple of collaborators before. So just type in Spirit Island on my search and see what you find. Until next time, remember, regardless of which spirit you like to play, there's bloody enough of them by now. It's still only a game. Bye for now.